All right, everyone. We're going to go live. Going to wait a couple minutes here for a couple of friends to show up. Hey, Mark. How's it going, buddy? Can you hear me? Give me another peace sign if you can hear me. Hey, Mark, can you hear me? All right. Well, hey, I just sent a message to Shane. You know me, I am not very tech savvy. So I scheduled this and I thought it would come on automatically. So when that didn't happen, I just went in and turned it on manually. So hell, the other one might even start at some point. I don't know. One of these days, I'm just going to have to get better at figuring this stuff out. But last week, I posted that video of Shane approaching that little one out in the field at the 400. And I've gotten inundated with a lot of questions, well, and a lot of comments. You know, people were saying that the little heat signature that they could see out in the field in that picture, in the thumbnail picture, was just so small that how do we not know it wasn't a small animal? Well, I thought I explained things in the video that Shane walked out there, shined a light, and saw it looking at him through the grass, and also the thorough investigation that was done afterward showed that there was a 5-foot body imprint in the grass, and all the other details, you know, where the rock was thrown, other footprints were found. So there might be people that look at the thumbnail and then they'll ask questions or pose questions without really listening to the video or even watching the video at all. So I'm sure that happens a lot. So I think that's probably some of the discrepancies or complaints that they just don't understand. I even had a couple of comments where people were like, well, is the Bigfoot wearing jeans? I can see him wearing jeans. Like Shane in the video, or Shane in the picture, was who I was saying was a Bigfoot. So you see how the confusion begins when somebody doesn't even watch the video. They just look at the picture and then formulate a question that they could have answered themselves if they would just watch the video. So, you know, I was hoping that I could bring Shane on, but I don't know. I'm not that advanced in how to do this. But I did want to explain. I mean, I can say verbatim what, you know, Shane explained, you know, when he went out there. So, you know, hopefully he'll be in the comments and he can or in the chat room, and he can answer questions specifically to him. But there were parts of the video that, the way my video camera records, it would record in 10-minute videos. So there was still a little portion of the video that was not shown on the YouTube. And that's where the rock got thrown at him and he hightailed it back out to the trail with us. So, and that's my fault for not going into my library and finding the rest of that video. So the video that I had stopped at the 10-minute mark. And But what happened after that is Shane had his flashlight and was attempting to step to the left so that he could look at the body. The body was laid kind of in a prone position, but a little sideways around this thorn bush area, really bushy grass area. So Shane was kind of stepping around, and at that moment he was really close. So he was kind of stepping over and around, and Shane said that he heard a noise that he could only describe as the teeth clicking, because it was a clicking noise. And for 10 minutes he had approached it a couple of times and got real close to it and never heard that noise. So we're assuming that he crossed an imaginary line that put it in a higher state of anxiety than even previous. You know, him walking up to a certain point, you could tell that it was nervous. But once he passed that very critical close proximity line, it clicked its teeth. And so here's where we just assume things. We're going to assume that that was a warning mechanism or a distress mechanism, because certainly that triggered the rock being thrown from the other location that almost hit Shane. And that's what caused Shane to back out quickly, is the rock that was thrown at him. Because at that point, we had no idea that there was another one around. There was no other noise, nothing. And the brush was just too thick. I never saw another heat signature. So, I mean, you got to understand there's 2 or 3 elements that were all at play at the same time. And that is, we had our own high anxiety. We didn't really know what to do, how hard to push it. And certainly the teeth clicking all the way up to that point, and then the teeth clicking, and then the rock throw. I mean, Shane was on edge anyways. So that's when he backtracked it out. And we were just laughing the other day talking about it, because it looked like he was doing a little penguin walk, because he was kind of in a half crouch, half looking, half moving. And when that rock came, he just spun around on his heel and did a penguin walk out of there. So there was no hesitation he understood what a warning shot is. And that makes him smart in my book. You don't want to wait for the second warning shot, because it might be a little more accurate. But anyways, so with all of that happening, Shane backed out. But here's the point, that when people see the picture that I put on the thumbnail, and you just see the little bitty head poking up out of the grass, and that's all you see. And it's a good question. Why don't we see any more of the heat signature of a 5-foot long being laying there in the grass? Well, if you continue into the video and you see that Shane got into the spot, into the position, thoroughly investigated all of that was going on back behind the curtain in that area, you could see where the body laid, and it laid behind a very thick row of scrub brush and a thorn bush and some other things. So it picked its spot correctly, where it was able to hide most of its body. And all it wanted to do was peek anyways. So that's the part we caught, was just the top of the head, which even the top of my head, if I go far enough back and lay in the grass and my head pops up, my head would probably look the same as that critter's head. But that's the facts as we know it. Those things, it happened the way we said it happened. And I was talking to Shane the other day, and there's one aspect that Shane couldn't know. So I have had people, be kind of rude, and how do you know Shane wasn't lying to you? Things like that. People will say anything, but I think they're just really just looking for answers that they can understand. And here's my answer to that. Shane had no idea. He had only known me for, at that point, I'm thinking 7 or 8 months. I don't think it had been a full year yet. So he really didn't know who I was on the inside. And Dan Nadrello was standing there next to me on the trail, and and he's a biologist, and Shane could not have even possibly known that at some point that Dan or myself or both of us would have just said, screw this, we're going out there, because it wasn't that far out. We could have easily went out there where Shane was, because we never discussed, hey, Shane, are you doing this alone? Hey, Shane, should you do this alone? Should we join you? We never had those discussions. Shane just took off out there, and I just was recording it. So the fact that we didn't have a discussion about it, then it was on the table what we all three could do. Shane probably wouldn't have done anything or said anything if I would have went on out there. I'm just saying that I could have if I wanted to. I understood my role as the documentarian at that point. I was documenting everything. But still, so if Shane, let's just say that Shane goes out there and he's putting on a good show, and he shines his light in there, and he's like, oh man, that's a baby fawn, but he's gonna lie to us back there and say, oh yeah, it's a Bigfoot. I see it. It's looking at me, and and here's the color of its eyes, and and I see it. And do you know how embarrassing that would be if I went ahead and just walked on out there and had my thermal camera and shown that it was a fawn and wasn't a Bigfoot? How would Shane invited us there? How would he ever be able to live that down if that's how you're going to start, our relationship of Bigfoot research? So for all of those reasons, I think that's not even a logical question. Do I think Shane could have been lying to us about what was in the grass there, because of how easily things could have turned around, and Dan and I could have walked out there and completely blew the storyline, and then Shane would have looked horrible. So, and now after knowing Shane for 7 years, nobody in their right mind is going to put themselves out there in a way where you tell an untruth on purpose or anything. I mean, certainly we make mistakes, but but you know what I'm saying? I mean, that makes sense to me. So I have a feeling that none of the people that asked me any of the questions on the video or sent me messages on Facebook through Messenger asking questions, I guess they decided not to show up here but I still wanted to explain this stuff so that this will be a reference. People can go back to it and listen to this and know that there are other things, that they need to weigh on what happened that day. No. Mark asked, did you guys ever lay eyes on the mama? We didn't lay our eyes on anything. And when the rock got thrown, like I said, and Shane hightailed it out of there, there was so much scrub brush and trees to my left that I couldn't see very far in that direction at all. And that's the direction that the rocks came. So all of that time we were bouncing ideas off of each other about what we should do. I mean, we could have went out there and forced the little one to get up or whatever, but we weren't ready for that part to do it that way. We wanted to, and I was real worried that we were ruining the action. Shane was actually involved in 2013 and 2014, maybe even longer than that, with another family unit that completely got shut down. And so we had that on our mind, because he lamented the fact all the time that he ruined that location. Well, he feels like he ruined that location because he took a friend out there and approached a young one and actually chased it. So we were close to breaching that same unwritten understanding and agreement with this family unit. We were very close to breaking that if there would have been a chase involved. But the fact that Shane went out there and it showed that it was nervous. And then Shane responded to the rock being thrown by the mother by backing out. We feel after the fact, after all of that was done and we had time to sit down and digest everything that happened, and found out that they were still there and they were still tossing rocks and all of that stuff. So our thought process is, we thought because Shane followed her instructions when she sent the warning shot with the rock, that was a good thing, that they understood in whatever ways that we can all communicate in the only ways that they know how, that her throwing the rock, telling him that was close enough, the little one's nervous, you need to go. And Shane went. He came back to us, and then we eventually went back to camp. So it turns out that all of that was the correct thing to do. We could have pushed it further. We could have made that thing hop up. Believe me, we've had this conversation 100 times. And now, 4 or 5 years after that, we haven't had it happen again. So we realize just how rare it is. And we really thought after that night that, man, these kind of things are going to be happening all the time out here, because it just seemed like that kind of place. But come to find out, that was a rarity. And I just had a conversation 2 days ago with Ernie DeVoe. I'm sure you guys may have heard of him, maybe even heard a podcast, but we spoke on the phone, and he was telling me that 37 years ago, when he was hunting deer and he had an encounter, it involved something happening with the 2 Bigfoots that were in front of him, that recognized that he was there as a hunter, were doing some things like hand signals to each other. And he said the one touched the other one on the chest and did a sweeping motion with his hand, and the other one took off like it was going in a big half circle around Ernie. So Ernie believes from those things that he saw that they were showing hand signals, maybe speaking with, I'm sure it was just hand signals, but maybe it could be where you talk with your hands. I don't know. But to me, more importantly, it shows tactical movements. And him telling me the story the way he told it to me reminded me very much of the military stories that I hear, especially people doing night ops, when they're doing military night ops, and they use a lot of hand signals, like be quiet, bring up the rear, sweep to the right, sweep to the left. So using hand signals, that's what it very much reminded me of. And so we're talking a level of intelligence that's, we better start, you better start getting used to thinking about these things more like that. Because now I understand, and I was talking with Ernie, that what happened with Shane may have been, we interrupted one of those maneuvers where they were separating from the family group and crossing a short opening to another grove of trees. That may have been what happened as we come down that trail, and the little one was caught in the open and had to drop, because all the indications were that it did drop quickly on top of a thorn bush and actually broke a thorn branch and was laying on a sharp thorns branch. So if the evidence tells you that it dropped quickly, then it was surprised. So what was it doing separated from the other 2 to the point of being surprised? So it could have been going through one of those tactical maneuvers. And the reason we say that now, how many reports have you read where Bigfoots, and Shane has had this happen too, where you are having some type of encounter, whether it's visual or just audio, where you know there's a Bigfoot over here doing something, and you've got your attention over there, and then you hear something over here, whether it be a rock throw or a branch break or just some type of noise that makes you swivel, and then you look back and the one that you had your attention on has gone. You hear that probably in 90% of the reports, where they work together and keep themselves in positions that they can tactically help one another with diversion. techniques. We all know that's the common behavior. But the thing is, Ernie DeVoe watched it happening when two were talking together and one took off and went around to sweep around to, the backside of Ernie. And then Shane and I and Dan may have intercepted one in the middle of moving tactically to separate. I think they were moving along that trail to watch us. That's what they do. They move to different spots. They know we were using that trail all the time. So they were comfortable knowing that that's the trail is what we were going to use going down to the mud flats. So imagine them moving along the trail, going to their next spot, but we caught it halfway in between running across that opening and it had to drop. And so that whole scenario where I saw the heat signature and Shane was able to walk out there was an accident. It was an accident on their part. They didn't expect it. And all of the behaviors of that little one would show that it didn't expect to be caught that way, but it was. And you could also see all of his behaviors saying that he didn't quite know what to do because he's young. And I have speculated, probably not true, but it sure seems that way, that there were moments as Shane was approaching him that he had to make a tactical decision. Do I get up and run and surely I will get seen, or do I just go ahead and lay face down and hope that Shane walks on by me? It almost seems like that was his two choices, and he chose the latter, which is to lay face down, be quiet, and Shane may walk by, because Shane was headed towards him, but it was to the right. He wasn't heading right at him. He was heading towards the right of him. So how many times have these things been able to get into a briar thicket, a big tuft of grass, some cattails, whatever, and lie motionless, and people will walk by very closely? That's what it seemed like to me. And so watching the thought processes of that little critter trying to figure things out on the fly while Shane was throwing all these monkey wrenches at him, it was very interesting. I really enjoyed it. At the same time, I was full of anxiety because I thought we were hurting it. I mean, not hurting it, but hurting us all by doing it. And so, yeah. So yeah, I mean, so I hope I've answered all the questions about what Shane's part of that was. I mean, I hate to speak for Shane. I mean, he's an eloquent speaker. He can say it all himself, but I've heard him say the story enough that I think I can paraphrase most of it. I mean, Shane, is there anything about that story from your point of view that I didn't add in there that that you thought should be added for anybody that needs clarity in what happened there? Maybe we just need to take somebody like Mark Roberts out there and Mark Roberts should go out there and sit down and enjoy a visit with them. Yeah, well, so Shane, what do you think about our last couple of days? Are we gonna have to eat crow? Cryptic Crystal, I want to say, I don't even know how to put people's comments over here. Forgive me for my ignorance. I watch other people's live stream shows, and they look so professional, and they put things up there, and it's so great. Man, I'm just winging it like a big dummy. But I appreciate that, Cryptic Crystal. I mean, me and Shane are trying hard to be as straightforward and honest with everything that's done. And I really don't think that there's any other way to do it, because if you do, you'll end up backing yourself into a corner, and and you'll embarrass yourself, and you'll embarrass the people that you're with, and that would hurt me more than anything else. Than hurting myself would be to hurt the people around me, So Can't be that way. Yeah, Mark. This summer, I'm going to try to take my grandsons camping for the first time. I think they're old enough where I can take them out by themselves. I kept waiting because, when they were younger, say like, 2 and 3, I was like, I am not taking a kid out there that needs his butt wiped. so I'm, and now all of a sudden I wake up and they're, 8 and 10. So now I think we can do it at this age and we'll be all right. So, okay. I don't even know how many people we got in here. Isn't there somewhere I could see that? I'm going to have to watch some videos on how to do this. I'm going to assume there's 5 or 6 people in here from what I can read. So, oh, it says 5. Okay. Well, then why can't I see it? Anyway, Sharon, you got any questions? I mean, that video that I put out, is there anything, anything that weighs heavy on your mind that I said about the Shane approaching the little one that doesn't fit right in your craw? All right. Who's Wheelhouse Baseball Clinic? Oh, this is Chris Allen. Okay. That's an interesting name there. I guess I'll have to get used to that. That's like joining a forum, under a name like I used to be on a forum as driver operator. So I guess that's what it's like. Randy, no, I would have walked out there and looked to see what it was. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, you say that now. I say lots of things after the fact. But when it's dark, it's a different story, right, Shane? Yeah. Shane's butt was puckering, even though it turned out to be a little one. But you didn't know it was a little one. Hell, it could have been a tiger, as far as we knew. Yeah, and we're no different than anybody else. It's easy to. We even pick our own stuff apart, and we're like, man, why didn't we do that? Why didn't we plan better? Why didn't we set that up to do this? After the fact, I find that I've got all the answers, but while we're in the middle of something and we're trying to wing it, we look like the Three Stooges. All right. Well, there's really no reason for this show to go, longer than what it's at right now. I mean, because people can watch this after the fact. It'll be on my channel if they feel like. Well, that's what I'm going to do. If they send me a goofy question, that I'll be like, look, I did a follow-up trying to answer everybody's questions, so you'll have to just check that one out. So, yeah, I think we'll be all right. So Shane and I got some talking to do, about stuff that's going on. So, so I appreciate you guys coming here. I'm going to go ahead and back on out of here. I think I said enough. We've said all of this on other podcasts, but I was telling Shane, we put them in such a huge vat of storytelling that it never stood alone. It was just kind of in the mix of all the things that we talked about. So this, I got to go rewatch. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, then I'm going to go ahead and end this. And I appreciate you guys showing up. Even though there was only 5 of us here, it was the best 5 that we've got. So talk to y'all later.